This week's US CQM Forecast Alert is economic growth on the income side is still negative. This week, all major economic indicators for October came in well below earlier forecast. For example, the industrial production index fell 0.6% in October, well below the earlier forecast of 1.16%. As a result, this mainly contributed to the downward revision of the PCA's real GDP forecast. The actual values of PPI and CPI in October were also significantly lower than earlier forecast, contributing to the downward revision of the GDP price deflator. In particular, the large drop in PPI significantly revised the inventory valuation adjustment upward and contributed to an upward revision of the economic growth rate on the expenditure side. The economic growth rate on the expenditure side has been revised upward significantly due to an increase in business inventory changes. On the income side, nominal GDP was revised downward, but this was slightly outweighed by the downward revision of the GDP price deflator. As a result, the economic growth rate on the income side has been revised upward slightly, but it still shows negative growth. However, some market economists are predicting economic growth rate of 2% or more. This can be understood by looking at CQM's economic growth forecast on the expenditure side. All inflation indicators have been revised significantly downward, with all growth rate below 3%. Looking at the economy from the real aggregated indicators for 2023 Q4, an economic growth rate of 2% or more seems too optimistic. The economic growth rate, according to the PCA, has been revised downward from 1.0% to 0.14% due to the decline in the industrial production index and retail sales in October. This is close to CQM's average economic growth rate of 0.41% on both the expenditure and income sides. Conclusions from this week's US CQM Forecast Alert. First, CQM revised the economic growth rate on the expenditure side upward by about 1.5% from minus 0.27% to 1.19%. Second, however, the economic growth rate on the income side remained negative at minus 0.36%. The third, the economic growth rate based on real aggregated indicators is around 0.5%. Fourth, the PCA forecast has revised the economic growth rate downward to 0.14%. Fifth, the latent true economic growth rate is around 0.0% to 0.5%. Market economists' forecast for economic growth rate above 2% seems too optimistic. 6. All inflation indicators have been revised downward to growth rate of 3% or less. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast and shows how to access the past US CQM forecast alerts.